I'm not sure what's going to go on here. Is this a joke? Am I the only one hiding?
You better be in good shape.
I'm hoping that I'm going to be strong enough to hold them.
They will kick you and they will injure you.
They really were fighting.
At the end, I felt like they were laughing about us.
Wanted. Wildlife veterinarians to capture and move wild animals. Applicants must be willing to work long hours in severe environments and highly dangerous situations. Meet Ellen Mesner-Rogers and Jorge Paredes. Two young doctors just crazy enough to answer such an ad. Join them in South Africa as they learn firsthand from Dr. Cobus Rath and a team of other game capture specialists the challenges and triumphs of modern-day conservation.
It's going to be the experience of a lifetime.
On the Great African Wildlife Rescue. It is an early morning in August, and the crew has been working for days on the hot African plain. Their mission today is to catch a small herd of antelope known as Hemsbok, but conditions will have to be ideal to capture these clever animals.
And then in the middle there, that can be the center. Yeah. Let's just go and stand down there and see what it looks like. Yeah.
We have to know, working with wild animals in game capture, that we cannot underestimate how intelligent they could be.
Chief pilot for the South African National Parks, Piet Otto, and Cobus Rath are explaining to Ellen and Jorge the critical placement of the capture site.
You're saying that they build a box at the back? What do you mean? Is it actually walls or?
No, they bring the two sides in like that,
Yeah.
they net,
Yeah.
and then they make a square, and then you have a curtain in front of the square, okay, and then so when the animals come running in this direction, and they go into the nets here, and you close this curtain off.
The capture site is a V-shaped boma with walls made of net or plastic sheeting. The entrance is flanked with transparent netting, and as the animals are herded into the enclosure by helicopter, a series of curtains will close sequentially behind them, trapping them in a smaller area at the front or a waiting transport truck. However, if the wind is not blowing into the boma, the odds are that the attempt will fail.
The wind direction is really critical for a boma capture. You have to make sure that the animals cannot smell the people or the vehicles or the boma itself as they're running into it.
And obviously with this wind, it's important to have the mouth this way, because the wind is very strong, and they must run with the wind.
The challenging task of building the boma is especially difficult in this sandy terrain. The site for this capture is the area of Kleinzee on South Africa's northwestern coast. Best known for its diamond mines, Kleinzee also features a modest wildlife reserve. Here the Hemsbok have been breeding so successfully that this small area may soon be unable to support them. Today, rangers from the South African National Parks Board will be capturing a small herd for private sale to another reserve. Weighing more than twice as much as a man, these clever animals are almost perfectly adapted for desert climates. If deprived of water, their body temperature can climb as much as 9 degrees centigrade above normal before they will have to pant and sweat to cool off. Known for their strength, speed, and endurance, conditions will have to be ideal to capture these resourceful animals.
We've tried to take every precaution with this capture to set things up right. So we've chosen a very particular spot, we've set up the boma, and we've even had the foresight to check with the weather station to find out about the wind.
Ellen and Jorge have been working with a crew of more than 20 to prepare the poles and cabling that will form the backbone of the capture site. But if the wind conditions do not change, their hard work may be in vain. The animals will pick up the scent of humans as they approach the boma and then run in the opposite direction.
As time is passing, we're realizing that despite what the weatherman said, The wind is completely in the wrong direction, and it's staying that way.
As a final step, the crew will attempt to camouflage the boma. At this point, they have only two options. They can rotate the entire boma 180 degrees, or they can take a chance on the wind and go ahead with the capture as planned.
They've decided to try and just push the animals in and use almost brute force to get them in.
Pete Otto takes off in search of a nearby herd of Hemsbok, while Ellen and Jorge join the ground team hiding inside the boma and await the call from the helicopter.
When you're waiting for the signal to close the curtains, you cannot move, you cannot talk, you cannot do anything.
I'm not sure what's going to go on here. I keep asking, what's happening, what's happening? In fact, I'm thinking, is this a joke? Am I the only one hiding?
Pete Otto is considered one of the most skilled helicopter pilots in all Africa. But years of experience have taught him never to underestimate his opponent. Flying dangerously low to the ground, he will try to guide the Hemsbok into the mouth of the boma.
That guy just wants to go left.
Facing a strong headwind, the Hemsbok seem unwilling to approach the capture site. And after 2 attempts, things are not looking good.
The animals are getting closer and closer and closer, but then they smell it. They smell us, they smell the boma, they smell the vehicles, and they will not go in. The pilot is taking his life into his own hands because he's doing absolutely terrifying flying to get them in, and it's not working.
After 3 attempts, it seems clear that these animals will not be caught today.
The pilot just, in utter frustration, says, forget it, it's not going to work. He lands and he says he is not doing that again.
The helicopter that was coming very near, I thought the animals were already in the boma, but then...
No, they went out. And that's why you don't continue to try, because once the animals have been here, they obviously now know of the site and that you can't use those animals again.
At the end, I felt like they were laughing about us. It was really, really frustrating for everybody, because after a couple of days working in the desert, finally we had to go home with nothing.
Game capture has evolved over many years of trial and error. In a battle against the elements and animal instinct, failure is often the greatest teacher. Today in Orabis Falls National Park, the team will try another mass capture of a different kind of antelope, the springbok. Orabis lies roughly 300 kilometers inland from Kleinzee. The park itself is best known for the dramatic waterfalls found at its center. Although the entire region is considered to be a desert climate, once a year, for a few brief weeks, brilliant wildflowers transform the arid landscape.
When we arrived, I can say that I was quite relaxed because everything around was so beautiful.
They have wildflowers that come up. It'll be yellow as far as you can see, or orange.
Today, Ellen and I are going to be doing some physical work together. We're going to capture a springbok, and you better be in good shape.
I'm hoping that I'm going to be strong enough to hold them. They are pretty small, and they don't look very strong. They look actually quite delicate. So I think it's going to be fine.
Because of the relatively low number of predators in the park, there are so many springbok that the desert grasses they feed on are beginning to disappear. If they're not moved to a new home soon, they risk starvation. The team's mission is to capture up to 100 animals and transport them to another park. The structure used to capture springbok is similar to the Hemsbok boma. However, this rectangular enclosure has only one curtain. Inside the boma, collapsible drive nets are used to entangle the animals. The outer walls are made entirely of mesh netting and are virtually invisible to the animals.
What's nice about this one, if you actually look back, you can see the poles, but you can't really see the net against the mountains, and that's what they use. When the animals come running in here, they can't pick up the net, so they carry it straight on and actually run into it. And then that's when this curtain on this side, which they're putting up here, will be closed manually by somebody running. But it does sometimes happen, if they get a fright in the middle of the boma, that they will run to the side. And that's why you have a good cable at the bottom and a cable at the top. So if they hit this, you know, it won't give.
As soon as the springbok are inside the enclosure, the ground team will run in on foot to untangle each animal, administer a light tranquilizer, then carry them to the truck. Once again, Pit Otto will be using the helicopter to try and shepherd the animals into the boma. As it begins the process of trying to locate the first group, the ground crew works to set up the last of the drive nets inside the enclosure.
So when they hit the net and then people just come in and grab them, do they get caught up?
The net is supposed to be not too tight so that they can run into the net and the net will fold over them.
How many guys do you have to come in once they're entangled?
It depends on the amount of animals, but everybody will come from the gates because we'll have to give them an injection and then get them out of there.
From the air, Pitt has already found the first group of more than 30 animals. As he begins to close in on the herd, Cubas gives Ellen and Jorge some last-minute advice.
Now listen, these animals, although they're small, they're very dangerous, all right? Especially when they're kicking. You must make very sure that you stay out of the way of their hooves because they're very fast and they kick with both hind legs. The rams are the only animals that we handle by the horns, okay? The females and the smaller ones, the sub-adults, we handle by the ears, okay? So that we don't break the horns because they will jerk and pull and we don't want any injuries to the animals, okay? And grab both hind feet and hold it very tight, okay? Because they will kick you and they will injure you, okay?
Able to run up to 90 kilometers per hour, the springbok's speed and agility are its best defenses. Keeping the herd together as it approaches the boma requires a steady hand and quick reflexes from the pilot. The wind conditions are right, but the ground crew must resist the urge to show themselves before the signal has come from Pitt.
I hear the helicopter getting closer and closer. In fact, I can hear animals running by.
Once the signal has come, the crew must quickly close the boma and get to the animals before they injure themselves. As soon as the animals become entangled, the vets rush in to sedate them.
As soon as I reached the first animal, I was really surprised how strong they are. I never thought that it's going to be difficult at all.
I get to the first animal and it's entangled. It's not going to go anywhere, but it might hurt itself. I'm so focused on doing my job that the chaos going on around me isn't really sinking in.
There are now more than 30 springbok trapped in the enclosure. As the ground team races to get to each one, they are well aware that the animals could be in serious danger if they are not quickly freed.
Now I realize that I need at least 5 hands. I need to hold its ears, I need to start disentangling it, hold its back legs so it's not kicking me, and there's no way to do this.
first I thought it was going to be much easier, and as soon as I grabbed them, they started to kick, and they really kick hard.
Take his back feet, Jorge. Take the back feet.
Yeah, I cannot live.
They're strong. They're a lot stronger than they look. It's a real contest. Who's going to win in this struggle?
Let me take it.
Yeah. Get it? Watching the whole capture, it looks like such a brutal way to do it, but I want to keep in mind the purpose of moving these animals is really a good one. If we didn't, these animals would end up reproducing to the point where they didn't have enough food and they would be starving.
In any mass capture, teamwork is vital for the safety of animals and crew.
My job is to try to restrain the animal and try to get it out of the nets. And I'm realizing very fast that they are almost as strong, if not stronger, than I am.
Okay.
No matter how tame or delicate they might look, they'll all fight back. Their first rule is survival.
As soon as the animals are under control, a tranquilizer is injected into a vein in the ear to help calm them.
It takes about 5 minutes to take effect, and I can see a huge difference in the animal's behavior. It goes from being an animal that's really frightened and really struggling to one that's very calm. It's still fully awake, but it's very docile.
The 5 or 10 minutes of stress each animal experiences is a small price to pay in return for the benefit to the population as a whole.
1595.
If these animals were to remain here in Horades, in the long term they would suffer far more. Just as the ground crew has the first group under control, Pitt has already begun to shepherd the next group into the enclosure.
I knew that we had a good pilot, and the problem was that we have such a good pilot that we brought too many animals into the boma, and probably there were not enough people to deal with all the animals at that time.
You don't feel like you can relax until each one is being safely restrained.
Come here. See, it's a big horn. You can hold him at the base of the horn. Watch the foot at the back. That's what you gotta look for. Hold the horns. Okay, I got it.
As the ground crew struggles with the second group of animals, Pitt sets down briefly to refuel, giving the team a chance to catch up before another group is herded in.
This way. Brian, you want to inject that?
The team has now captured more than half the springbok they need.
Okay, let's take this one.
Once the animals have been tranquilized, they're carried to the transport truck where they're weighed and measured. Although springbok are one of the smaller antelope, they are no less well equipped to survive in this harsh terrain.
835.
The springbok make this very funny noise, sort of a bleating noise. What the heck is that? You know, is it dying or what? But after a few minutes, you realize that's just what they do when they're under stress.
So what's the best way to hold them? I mean, I was sitting on it and holding.
I like to hold it from behind its back.
Yeah.
Okay, hold the feet on that side.
Yeah.
Put my knee over its neck. Don't press down.
But just have it.
Just so that it's free under your leg, but the head is on that side.
By the time the second group has been weighed and loaded, Pitt is already in the air, bringing in the last group of animals.
I started to realize that this was going to be a hard work.
I was getting pretty tired. It was getting to the point where much longer I would not be able to do the restraint. I just would be too tired.
Drawing on the last of their energy, the crew races to gather the final group of springbok.
It's a little bit brutal to watch. You feel a lot of empathy for the animals. It's this problem that we have in veterinary medicine always, and that is we can never explain to these animals we're trying to help. They see us as a threat, and that's how they react.
The prone is trying to inject the Springbok by yourself. If it starts moving a lot, probably you will be ending injecting the drug into your finger. If you inject your finger, you're probably going to be sleeping for the rest of the day.
After a long day of setup and more than 2 hours of continuous capture, fatigue has set in. But despite the physical demands, this has been a valuable experience for Ellen and Jorge.
I totally underestimated these animals. I looked at them and thought, oh, they're little, they just can't be that strong. It was really hard work. They really were fighting.
Okay, you want help?
This is exactly the type of experience I was hoping to get. Right in the middle of things, right in the capture, trying to do good through this very physical manner.
At the end of the day, the crew has captured more than 70 animals and successfully completed their mission to restore the balance of the Springbok population in Orabis National Park, but not without its price.
The end of the day is a really good feeling. Everybody's sort of joking around and things have gone really well. There's a real sense of camaraderie, like, yeah, you know, we're a team now.
For the camera.
For the camera.
It looks like the animals are suffering a lot, but in the long term, it's going to be a benefit for themselves and also a benefit for some other species that are living in the same place.
So it's a trade-off, you know, 10, 15 minutes of real fright versus starvation. It's a trade-off very much in favor of the capture.
Coming up on the Great African Wildlife Rescue.
As long as the animal is anesthetized, it's always a concern.
At this point, we knew that he was not very deep, that he could wake at any time.
I can't believe that 30 feet away is an animal who could easily kill me.